infernal blessings. Like I used to do some of these little short videos a little while back. I used to film them while I was driving. I stopped doing them. So I'm going to try to get in the habit of trying to post short videos on topics, specific topics, and kind of stay on topic. Before I do that, real quick, encourage people to check out the Patreon page, the official Patreon page of Primordial Chaos, which is patreon.com /Baniti, Baniti. That's patreon.com /Baniti, Baniti. I'd encourage you to join Tier 3 because everybody always reaches out. What's the best way to take classes, or what kind of classes you offer? Can I get in your classes? All of that. That's the best way. I do all my private classes on Patreon. Tier 3 gives you 3 private classes every month on various different left-hand path topics. You can check the page out yourself and see all the content that's on there. And it also gives you access to the ritual that we do on a monthly basis. All right. So again, that's patreon.com /Baniti, Baniti. And Tier 3 is the way you want to go. We have some classes that start tomorrow, Saturday, August 5th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Kundalini Yoga Meditation Awakening class, that's tomorrow. And then we have other classes for the entire month that you'll see listed on there: Telepathic Sorcery and Magic, the Luciferian Self-Mastery class, Shadow Work class. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff on there. Check it out. And if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, a Telepathic Demonic reading, a Santa Muerte reading, a Egyptian Oracle reading, Shadow Work reading, which is a great place to start when people are looking for what direction should I be going in, what should I be doing, what kind of ritual work should I be doing. Shadow Work reading is the way to go. A deity reading, which helps to assist you with what spirits and demons walk with you for you to establish a stronger relationship with the spirit world. For a full list of readings, just shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com, and all of that is in the description box of all my videos, that information and how to contact me. Other than that, I wanted to just briefly, just for maybe 15 or 20 minutes or so, talk about doing work consistently on the left-hand path in the occult. Okay? This always seems to be not just per se an issue, but it seems to be something that's always overlooked, right? So, one, most ritual work per se isn't really a one and done. Unfortunately, some people think that's what ritual work is. I'm going to do a ritual, even if it's geared towards something specific, even though if there's specific intent. Sometimes people just do one and dones, and then they wonder why they may not be getting any results or nothing's happening. You got to be able to be intelligent enough to gauge how severe, for an example, is the situation you're working on, right? That's usually a telltale sign. You got to be able to get that communication in your ritual work, which you should, that maybe whatever you're working on, it needs more work. You need to fuel that intent. You need to stay at a little bit longer, especially if you're dealing with an ongoing issue or a problem that you've been struggling with for a while. Obviously, that's going to take more consistent work. But overall, consistent practice is the key on this path. Establish your regular routines. Establish creating your own rituals. Get into your own rhythm. Right? This is how things are going to start changing and transforming for you. Now, if you're inconsistent and you're just doing things here and there, or when something arises only, that's not going to work. I'm just going to be honest with you. You can be reading and have all this knowledge of everything on the occult, but again, as I've said a million times over the last several years, what good is that knowledge if you can't apply it? Okay? It's just pointless. So step one, establish your own personal daily, weekly, and monthly routines that work for you, right? How you set that up is personal. It's going to be based on your lifestyle, your schedule. It's going to be based on your needs. So there's not one specific method, because people, this is a common email I'll get from a lot of beginners on this path. And I try to answer this with common sense. How do I begin, or how do I start on this path? That's why, for an example, I always suggest a shadow work reading, because a shadow work reading, for an example, or working with the shadow self or the hidden self, is going to help uncover what you got going on in your life, what you got going on around you, some things you still might be holding on to from your upbringing, your childhood, etc., all of these things. So, unfortunately, this is not a path where there's a roadmap like most other religions, be it Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Usually it's, they have some type of baptism or initiation, right? Or shahada in Islam, etc. And then there's a guideline and a roadmap to follow, because it's structured to keep people in line, in conformity. Our path isn't. Our path is a little different, because even when everybody enters this, or goes through the gates, or goes through the pylons, or makes the intent to enter into the abyss and the void of their subconscious mind, that's going to be a different experience for everybody. And it's going to be influenced by your upbringing, what you've been through, where you're at in your life. So there's not the same starting point. What I'm essentially trying to say, there's not the same starting point for everybody once you enter upon this path. It's a little bit different. A lot of it also has to do where did you come from? Like if you were, for an example, in Christianity for many years, there's a certain way to approach as you enter this path. Maybe you were, you weren't religious, or you just came up in a cultural upbringing, or it could be another religion, another path that you were in for years. I say that because there's a lot of deprogramming that must be done. Because when you're in a system for many years, like most of us here that were raised in the West, a lot of us were raised in these Western religions. Or I should just say simply monotheistic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And there's a lot of deprogramming that goes into that, especially if you come on this path and you're an older person in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. That's a lot of programming that needs to be deprogrammed. It's a little different when you're younger. Not saying that the process, you still have to do the deprogramming, but it's a little bit different. So all these things need to be factored in, but the only thing that changes this, it's like anything in life. It's not just this path, it's anything in this life. If you're not consistent at anything you do, you will not be successful, okay? You will not be successful. You will struggle. If you're not establishing that regular routine, meditations, rituals, invocations, doing your study, doing your research, this is how you make yourself aware and prepared. Last night on a live YouTube video, we were talking about the fact that you never can be 100% ready for what comes down the pipe. That's life in general. That's not just this path. But you can never be fully prepared, because some people are hesitant sometimes in their work and what they do. They're always finding reasons, maybe excuses, or they're doubting themselves, right? You're going to have to sometimes find that certain things on this path, you're just going to have to jump right in and do it, okay? You're just going to have to jump in and do it and experience it, okay? And trust in the knowledge that you have gained. That's the trust. That's trusting yourself, okay? Because if you take the approach that you're going to play it safe until you feel safe within yourself with everything. Now, I'm not talking about, things maybe to a certain level or degree that's obvious right out the gate that you're not prepared for. We're not talking about that. We're talking about maybe you've been contemplating something for a while and you do have the experience and you've been on this path, and it's just this hesitation you're struggling with and you're not able to get past. That's a little different. That's a situation where you're going to have to indulge and dive in and experience for a little bit. It's the only way that works. So you'll never be 100% if you're trying things new. You'll never be 100% like, okay, everything lines up, I feel comfortable and safe and good, and it just doesn't work like that. Part of this path is about challenging yourself. part of this path is about dealing with the unknown. The unknown in the sense that you haven't uncovered it yet and experienced it. So you're going to have to experience it, uncover it, in order to see if it's for you. Now, then people go, well, what if it fucks me up? This always comes up. What if I'm working with the energy or something to that degree of nature that fucks me up? I promise you, if you've done your due diligence, you've prepared yourself, you will be able to sense if this is not, for you or if it is, okay? And you'll be able to either pull back, or if it is for you, you'll be able to proceed forward and explore it further. But the only way you're going to be able to figure that out is if you at least attempt to experience with it or experiment with it, okay? That's the only way. But the only way you're going to get results, and again, you have to look at magic. That's why they call it a craft, right? You hear the term witchcraft, right? That term craft is used in many professions, in sports, perfect your craft. It could be a skill or a trade. Perfect your craft. The Masons use it. You must perfect the craft and master the craft of masonry, right? It's used in many terms in reference to your craft or your skill or your art, whatever you want to refer to it as. In this case, magic is a craft, okay? It is a skill. And then not everybody has the ability to utilize it because you're dealing with the spirit world. You're dealing with things outside of person, place, and things. You're dealing with things that are not confined to three-dimensional existences, because that's what magic is. It's going beyond the three-dimensional realm and how you tap into that, right? So it is a skill. And one, getting yourself right is key. Being in a sound mind, a sound body, sound spirit, being able to get that right vibrational frequency you need to get in alignment with the work that you're doing. All of this are the skills of this craft, right? All of these are the skills you need to master and perfect. Like I said, it's no different if you have an athlete that plays a sport. That's why they have something called practice, okay? I don't care if it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever it is. It could be track, it could be whatever. Athletes have to practice regularly to become, great athletes. They have to perfect their craft, and you do that by practicing. Magic is no different. The only way, because remember, in the Wrathful Chaos book, the books of satanic philosophy, one thing the author Ariok talks about, and he hit it on the head when he breaks down the science of magic. It's the science of mastering yourself and your surroundings and your environment around you to bring change from within, so that change can manifest in your mundane or external world. So you're working with it's a science. There is a scientific aspect to it. So you're going to have to understand the sciences and the skills it takes to develop that craft. And remember, there's another thing he refers to in that book, which I love. He says, being a magician is also like being a scientist, because you will have to experiment with things. And that's what a scientist does. He experiments and he sees what works, and what doesn't work. That's what you're going to have to do. That's why your approach can't be hesitant all the time. You can't keep finding reasons and justifications of, you can come up with many reasons why you don't want to do something, but you can't come up with one reason why you can. Okay? So that's how you kind of alleviate that, bypass that, and get past and move on and able to get over that hump. But without that consistency, without that being able to indulge and experiment and be that scientist / magician to see what's going to work for you, you'll never know. Because I promise you this, if you come from previous spiritual paths, religious dogmas, other spiritual systems, where you've always depended on some guru or leader to tell you what to do, how to do it, or you always have been conditioned to wait on the priest, the pastor, the imam, the rabbi, the priest or the priestess, the padrino or the madrina, the babala, if you've always been waiting for somebody who you deemed in your mind that you were inferior to give you guidance, then this is not the path for you. Remember, it's referred to the path of self-mastery for a reason. Okay, the key word in that 2-word phrase is self. Okay, and that's why they say this is an isolated path of consciousness. Yes, collectively, there's collective aspects to this. We get together, there's group rituals, we fellowship, we communicate with each other on social media platforms and in person. But those that are really on this path know it's a very solitude path. Even though there is that, so I want to make that clear, because sometimes people hear it's a path of isolation. They think it's just some lonely, dreary path where you don't talk to nobody. That's not what it means. What it means is, at the end of the day, it's you in that ritual chamber with you. That the main person, the main God, deity or spirit or entity or being, whatever floats your boat that you need to depend on at the end of the day, is you. What it's saying at the end of the day, it's just you and you. Okay? Because we don't have no excuses on this path. We can't find a crutch to a crutch to lean on when we fail at something. We have to take responsibility for it. But it's the same when we do succeed at stuff. We take also acknowledgement and credit for that. So I would encourage to get that consistency flowing. Okay? And as I said, I've developed a Patreon page based on what I call our esoterical occult mysteries of the pentagram of Baphomet. Okay? Baphomet imposed in the center. We know what Baphomet represents. All those things we're trying to become, right? We're trying to embody the harmonization of masculine and feminine energy, the goat face of the man, the breasts of the female. There's that androgynous energy there. We see all 4 elements with the Baphomet, the scales in his abdomen representing the water element. We see the fire element. As the pineal is inflamed, we see the air element as above, so below, which is really as within, so without. There is no as above, so below, but it's a whole nother story, right? And so everything Baphomet represents imposed on the center of that pentagram, and then the 5 points, which is mastering oneself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. That's your goal, to be consistent at that every fucking day you get up. What can I do today to master myself spiritually? Are you studying? Are you reading? Are you continuously searching and seeking knowledge of self to improve yourself? Mentally, is my mental health in good order? Emotionally, am I in control and grounded and rooted in my emotions, and I know how to express them at the right times and the right moments? Okay? Physically, as I'm talking to you right now, and I'll show you when I pull up, I'm getting ready to walk into 9 rounds. Are you exercising daily? Are you taking care of your health to the best of your ability? Are you eating to the best of your ability? I promise you, if you live by these 5 points, you will have a productive, healthy, and successful life. And then financially, what are your goals? What are you trying to be in life? What are you trying to accomplish? What do you see yourself doing for a living as a career? Are you happy in those areas? These are the 5 points of self-mastery you need to be working on every day, okay? And I'm probably gonna, on the way back, maybe shoot a little video, elaborate a little bit more on that. But none of this is possible if you do not establish consistent practice in your magic, okay? Not just when you feel like, not just when you're in the mood, not just when you're on a platform or in a class or a chat room or, see, this is not a path you can play dress up, okay? This is not a path you can, as I've said many times over the years, fake the funk, because you will be exposed. So you could do that in other paths. You could put on the costume, right? You could put on, you know, the whole lingo, Alafia, Hotep, Ashe brother, have on your dashiki and your big ass ankh. As I said many times before, you're just fooling yourself. You might be getting over, you might be getting by, you might think momentarily that you got everybody fooled, and you could be doing that shit, you could be all fucked up in here and in here, but the only person you cannot fool is that person you gotta look in the mirror every day. That's you. And we just don't play that on this path. See, we don't have to play dress. Look, I'm not knocking anybody. You want to represent, wear some. I do. I might have my little Lucifer chain on, a couple rings, this or that, but I ain't gonna be going out there with a big ass ankh and 50 beads on my neck and 50 bracelets and I got mood rings bigger than my head and all that stupidity. To me, that's a cry for attention. Okay, we get it. You're conscious. We get it. You're spiritually quote unquote woke, or are you? Okay. To me, that just screams, I need attention. Look at me. I got this big ass beaded necklace on. Look at me. Right? To me, that's something you got to deal with in shadow work. That's a weak part of your ego. That's the weaker part of yourself. Okay? But point being is, start today. How do you manage your time? That's usually another telltale factor why people struggle with consistency on this path. Do you waste time regularly? And as I said before, look, there's no excuse. People always find excuses. I don't have the time. I work so much. I run a business, or I'm working multiple jobs. I got kids. I can't find it. Man, listen. Join the club called life. Welcome. Okay, welcome to the real world. In today's world, I think everybody's dealing with that for the most part. So that's not an excuse. And as I've said many times before in the past, I'm the wrong person to be whining and crying about I ain't got the time. Because I'm up every day early utilizing all my time as wisely as I can. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I try to the best of my ability to utilize my time because it's valuable. So you can't sit there screaming and crying and complaining you ain't getting no results when you ain't doing anything. And you coming in and, you just work, eat, sleep, shit, watch TV and Netflix. Work, eat, sleep, shit, watch TV and Netflix. There are, unfortunately, and I would hope not many on this path, but there are people like that. And this is why they get absolutely nothing done. And nothing will get done if that's your approach. So step one, manage your time. Look at your time before you start to develop a consistent practice. And when you do things consistently and you have set times, if you're able to, now I get it, some people got crazy schedules, they're all over the place. But try to set regular times as possible as you can, because your mind gets used to it. It starts to expect it. Like if you establish a daily morning meditation for a few minutes, for an example, your mind and your spirit is going to get used to it, accustomed, and start to expect it. It starts to adapt to it. Right? It's a good practice if you're able to do that. If you're an individual that has a schedule can do that, I would recommend that. Right? If there's a certain time of month, you establish other practices like rituals, etc. Try to get into a consistent practice if you can set specific times. Again, if it works for you. I know that may not work for everybody. Now, if you're more of a chaotic person with a chaotic schedule, then you're just going to have to do a lot of stuff on the fly. You're just going to have to take advantage of time that comes upon you that you can utilize for your work. But remember this, with being consistent and getting results on this path comes sacrifice. And see, that's the other problem, why people struggle. Look, people don't want to sacrifice anything to get change. They think they're just going to keep doing the same shit that they're doing and supposed to do a ritual here or there, and they think everything's just going to change because they don't want to change anything else about themselves or their life. That's not going to work either, okay? So don't expect anything to change if you don't want to make changes in yourself. That's the other problem people struggle with. They're not making any change in their lifestyle. They're not making any change in their approach. They're not making any changes on how they manage their time, and then they want to turn around and start talking about why ain't things working. Things ain't working because you ain't working, okay? And if we're talking about this is a path of self-mastery, you got to get off your butt and you got to do this for yourself. Can't wait for anybody to do it for you. Nobody's going to take you by the hand and show you step by step, verbatim, what to do. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, just like any other system, it's great to have teachers and elders, and I consider myself, both of those things on this path to certain people. But I still show people at the end of the day, you also have to be able to let go of the teacher and the elder's hands when you're doing your ritual work, and that's when you're going to really start to encounter and understand what you're really about. How powerful is your magic? Okay? How powerful is your magic? Well, that's going to be determined when you're in your ritual chamber, okay? And you are getting ready to work your rituals. How effective is your magic? That's going to determine what kind of power you really have, okay? And at the end of the day, you're going to have to find that out on your own. You're not going to be able to get an answer or somebody to explain that to you at all times. It just doesn't work. Okay? So, long story short, as I'm pulling in 2 to 9 rounds, backing in, about to wrap this video up. Be consistent in your magic. That's the message here. Be consistent in your practice. Establish regular routines based on your needs. Right? If you don't have a foundation, you don't have a plan, and you're all over the place, then chaos consumes you. Go to Set. Set will show you, for an example, if you work with Set, Set will give you the know-how to destroy a lot of the things you're struggling with, but also how to make order out of them. That's what Set does. That's what Set is about. And that's what we focused on for the entire month of July. All right? So be consistent in your magic. This is the only way you're going to get results. So start today. If you're a person that doesn't have that consistency, doesn't have that regular practice established, start today. After watching this video, get to work. Start today, moving forward, how you can change that. All right? Other than that, don't forget to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And I'd recommend Tier 3. That'll give you access to the 3 monthly classes that I do on Patreon every month and the monthly ritual. If you want to reach out to me for a spiritual reading or a consultation, hit me up at khnum19@gmail.com, and I will send you the information on how you can book a reading. Okay? Everything I said is in the description box of the videos if you forget. Other than that, get my butt up in here in the 9 rounds, kickboxing and fitness. And then after that, it's 30 to 40 minutes of weights at Planet Fitness. Then it's food, and then it's back to work. Spiritual work, that is. Well, actually, I'm going to take my little guy somewhere tonight. But anyway, it's time to live life, people. Infernal blessings.